Hey guys, it's Jenna here. Welcome back to my channel. As of right now, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm sorry for the lighting. The sun is setting right now, and it's got a really bad glare right here. But unfortunately, the blinds on that side of my window are broken, and if I turn the lamp off, it's too dark. So it's kind of really weird lighting right now. Yeah, so bear with me. But today we're going to be showing you guys how I make my reading schedules. I've been getting a lot of questions, messages, comments asking me how I do the schedule. So I figured it was time to make an updated version of this now that I have done a couple of reading schedules like this. I will warn you guys in advance that the way I explain it is going to seem like super tedious and like a daunting task, and it's like a lot of work. It's really not too bad once you get the gist of it and once you find whatever works for you. But it is trial and error, and it's just about finding the balance on what works for you as a reader. Because everybody's different. So, normally what I do is I start out by writing my TBR down and then writing down how many pages each book has. So, like, for example, I will write down House of Earth and Blood, and then I will... Sorry, my group chat is blowing up. And then I will go to this book, and I'll figure out how many pages it has. I just think I saw a spoiler! Oh, dear Jesus. So this has 799 pages, and I'm just going to write that down. You know you work at the grocery store when you put a dollar sign instead of just the number. So then I will repeat with the rest of these books, which I will do off camera because that's about to get really tedious really fast. Okay, so I wrote down all of my actual novels. So, like, I wrote them down and then how many pages they have. So I'm not going to put down my poetry collections or graphic novels or my audiobooks because those I kind of just gravitate towards on my own. I may just put the poetry collections on the schedule, but I'm not going to do a page count because the ones that I chose are so short that I can finish them in one setting. So that's just what it looks like. And I'm just waiting for my calculator to download so that I can proceed with the next part of the video. Okay, sorry if there's an angle change. I actually figured out that I can prop you guys up on my lamp, although you can slightly see the lamp shade. Hey, are we ready? I have my calculator. It's so weird because I can barely see myself because of the lampshade. So if I sit up like this, I have no idea what's happening. But this is gonna bug me. I wish that lampshade would just come off. Anyways, so basically what I do is, since I have the page count, I will kind of mess around with it. It just depends on what you and your reading speed is like. So for me and my reading schedule, I typically do like 2 or 3 books at a time. Like 2 books if they're bigger, 3 books if they're shorter. Honestly, it just depends on also the type of book I'm reading. Like for Crescent City, I know that I'm going to want to divide my attention. So, I forgot Imagine Me. Oof. Oh, dear Jesus. Hang on, let me look up the page count for Imagine Me real quick. It's so hard to like start a reading schedule because each month is different. And it's hard to piece it all together in a way that's not going to be stressful to you. But we are going to try our best. 464 pages. Wow. Okay, I'm so glad that I remembered that. Or else I would have been mad. Because then I would have had to redo my whole schedule. Okay. So, Obviously, House of Earth and Blood is the biggest one on my list. So we're going to like mess around with dividing and stuff. It does take a little bit of math, but not much. It's just like simple divisions. Like, I don't usually like to extend my, like, how long it takes me to read a book to over 7 days, just because then it's harder to incorporate the rest of the books. So let's just try to divide this into... Oh my god! Even to read House of Earth and Blood, I would have to read 115 pages a day to finish it in a week. What I could do, if I didn't want to do that, is make it like a 5-day book. And then just pair it with a shorter book. Or maybe I could do my reading for House of Earth and Blood and then do a poetry collection a day. That's like 160 pages, 150 pages or so. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do... So then House of Earth and Blood is going to be the first on my list. So that is going to be the first week. So what I do right here is I make a little diagram of the weeks of April, which is a little bit extra. You don't have to do that, but I find it's easier for me to piece it together when I'm like writing out the actual schedule. If I look back and I see, okay, so Crescent City comes first with the poetry collections. And then I still have the second, third, and fourth week of April. So the first week of April is kind of like a half week. Because we started April on a Wednesday? Yeah, we started April on a Wednesday, so I'm gonna, I don't know, see, this is hard to explain. It's easier for me to just do it when it's in front of me. So for week 1, I have to like look at the books that I have in front of me. So poetry is knocked out. House of Earth and Blood is knocked out. So I'm still looking at like 10 books to work with for the rest of April. So 3, 6, 9. So some weeks I could do like 2 books a week, and other weeks I could do 3 books a week. And since some are longer and some are shorter, like, let's see, what's next? I know that I want to read Imagine Me pretty soon, so I want to do Imagine Me in the first week. So I'm just going to put the initials for Imagine Me in the first week. And since that's longer, I can do maybe... maybe The Beautiful, because it's 425 pages, but I'm already 130 pages into it, so it's not actually going to take me that long. So then I just have to kind of fiddle around with the pages and the dates. Sometimes I do all of the pages and how many days it'll take me first so I can map it out, but sometimes I want to do it this way so that, because genres matter to me too, because sometimes I get too overwhelmed with too much fantasy. So for that reason, we're going to throw in, how about hard-hitting contemporary? Clockwork Angel will go in the second week, with Twilight and Girl in Pieces. It is kind of hard to map out, but honestly, once you get going, it's pretty smooth sailing. So then, we'll do ACOTAR, ACOTAR, No Judgments. So then we have Frostfire. Okay, that's almost perfect. We're gonna do Lightning Thief. Yeah. And then the only hard thing is making sure you don't miss any books, because then you're gonna have to go back and redo it. Glass Castle. Frostfire. Okay, so now that we have a general gist. So I'm sorry guys, I'm trying so hard to explain this, but it's hard when you can't see what I'm doing. And I tried really hard to set it up so like you guys could see over my notebook, but it just did not work out. I have so little space in my desk. I have literally like this much space and by like that wide. So I have barely any space even for my notebook. Okay, so now that we have this mapped out, let me just go over to my calendar real quick and look at how many days I have in each week. This really would have helped if I had actually made this reading schedule before the month of April. But I'm stupid. So, okay, so imagine okay, I think I get it now. 4 days for Imagine Me. And that is how many pages? 115. And it's a lot, but let me see here. The beautiful 425 minus 130. That's 295 pages divided by 4, which is about 75 pages, which is what I was already reading. Oh God. Okay, so there's that. That's out of the way. Now let's keep looking at the calendar. So now that that week is sorted out, these ones should be back to normal. So if I actually wanted to, I could make all these 7-day books, but honestly, that kind of seems excessive. Maybe for the second week of April, I can do that because I do have some pretty long collections. So let's see. I have Clockwork Angel, which is almost 500 pages. You just gotta mess with it a little bit. Like Clockwork Angel is probably gonna be 80 pages at 6 days. And Twilight is 490. So Twilight's about 70 pages. And then Girl in Pieces is only 398 pages. Oof, we don't like that number. It's 80 pages. That's 5 days. So it's quite the process, but now once I have it mapped out, ACOTAR with No Judgments and so yeah, you just gotta mess around with it, and I will go over all this because I know that what I'm saying right now is making no sense, probably. I'm just struggling a little bit. Not that much though, but still, it's like making a reading schedule is always like, I have to actually be intelligent for a minute, and I'm not used to it. 70 pages. Lightning Thief. And what I try to do is, if I'm reading a lot of books at once, I sometimes will take like longer, reading less pages of each book a day, which will ultimately draw out the time reading them, but it also is easier to manage the number of books you're reading. Because like I still have 11 books on this list, not including audiobooks and poetry collections. And I will easily be able to fit all these on my schedule. You just gotta mess around with dates and page counts and how many days it's gonna take you to read each book. So now I'm on my last week with Glass Castle and Frostfire, both of which are super short books. So 3... Oh, but the last month is 5 days. So we're just gonna do 5... No. Which is like 65 pages. And then Glass Castle is only 288 pages. We're going to divide that by 4, and it's only 72 pages. Okay. So here's what I have mapped out. I'm going to try to explain this the best of my abilities. So down here, this is what I did. So the first week of April is a half week because we started on a Wednesday. But because I'm starting my reading schedule so late, my April week is actually going to go, my reading for Crescent City, 1, 2, 3, 4, is actually going to go into April 7th. And then Imagine Me. So because Crescent City is going to be going into the next week, I shortened how many days it would take me to read Imagine Me and The Beautiful. So I did 4 days for those just to keep my reading on track. This will all start to make sense. But so here I have the book, the page count, and then all of my figuring out page counts, days it'll take me. And this is all going to help me map out writing the actual schedule. So I'm just going to take a quick picture of this so I don't have to keep flipping back and forth, because it gets annoying real fast, I tell you what. And then we're going to start this from April 3rd. Friday, April 3rd. So Friday I do have to work, and then I'm going to my dad's. So it shouldn't be too hard for me to get my reading done, considering it's only going to be Crescent City. So yeah, we just have to do 160 pages. And because, so I'm incorporating my graphic novels and 3 poetry collections into my reading with Crescent City, instead of pairing Crescent City with a new novel. I don't know, but so the first day of reading Crescent City, I'm not going to read a poetry collection or graphic novel, but every day after that, I'll read a different one. So Friday, April 3rd, I just have to read 160 pages of Crescent City. Then going into Saturday, you repeat the same thing, but I'm going to add a poetry collection or a graphic novel. So we're going to do Monstrous. And basically you keep repeating this process until you get into the new week. So I will pop in with you guys once I get to the new week, etc., etc. And then I will show you guys my finished schedule and kind of try to explain it more in depth. I know this video has been hella confusing, but I've been getting so many questions and it's just so hard for me to explain it so many times to individual people. So I figured I would make a video of it, even though I'm terrible at explaining things. So I'll pop in with you guys once the schedule is completed. This video has been super time consuming, but the schedule is done. So here it is. So here's Crescent City. So the first day is just Crescent City, and then every day after that I have a poetry collection or a graphic novel paired with my reading for Crescent City. So then I will be done Crescent City, and all of my poetry collections and graphic novels will be completed. Perfect. Then we're starting with the next set of books, which is Imagine Me and the Beautiful. And basically, I just read these. I don't think I'm going to have a problem with it. I think Imagine Me is going to be extremely easy to get through. The Beautiful, however, I'm kind of sketched out about, but I'm hoping not, because I'm only reading... Hello, Savannah. Oh, her whisker just went up my nose. That it will be easier to get through. So then, we're set to finish those on a Saturday. And then you start with the next 3 books and just proceed with page counts and stuff. Clockwork Angel was, or Twilight was going to take me the full 7 days. Clockwork Angel was going to take me 6 days, and Girl in Pieces was going to take me 5. So that's how it kind of went. You know, you finish one, finish another the next day, and then finally finish the last one at the end of the week. And that's how it went with these 3 too. And yeah, just continues like that until you get to these 2, which are the shortest ones. Frostfire took me 5 days, and Glass Castle will take me 4. And then, bam, ta-da, you are done with your schedule. So something else I figured I would add, because a lot of people like to do this. I personally don't anymore. When I first started my reading schedule, I used to do this like religiously because I thought it helped me, was you tab the pages that you have to read to. So like, for example, I don't remember how much I have to read of this. 80 pages of this, I would just put like a sticky tab in every 80 pages. Honestly, sometimes this method works well because you can like see the progress that you're making or how much more you have to read, and it kind of acts like a milestone. So sometimes it helps, but other times I feel like you're just constantly like monitoring how much you have, and it can kind of discourage you. It really just depends on you as a person. For me, with some books, it was like a milestone. I'm like, heck yeah, like I already made it to my page. And sometimes I was like, oh my God, am I ever going to make it to my page? So it really just depends on the book, the person, whatever. Also, some pro tips. If you are struggling to get into a book, just take it out of your schedule. Just cross it out. Don't worry about it, and don't beat yourself up if you can't get to something. Because that's something I definitely had to learn and kind of perfect with my reading schedule, is that life is unpredictable, and sometimes I am much more busier one day than I am the next day. And my reading schedule can seem like a really stressful thing when I'm working as much as I am and doing as much as I do. But just remember to always keep yourself in check. If you're feeling too stressed out, cut a book or 2. Like, there's a whole year to read books, so don't stress too much about it. And if your schedule gets messed up, fine. That's perfectly fine. This is trial and error here. And feel free to leave yourself some gaps in reading too if it's feeling overwhelming. Like I did in March. So with my March reading schedule, let's see, from March 26th all the way to March 30th, I was only reading 1 book, and it was only 65 pages a day. And March 31st, I wasn't reading anything at all. So I kind of had that little wiggle room for if my schedule wasn't working out or I had to switch some things around. So when you're beginning your schedule, just feel free to keep those in mind. Don't stress yourself too much, because then it's just going to seem like reading is a chore when it's not. The schedule for me was designed to keep myself in check, to keep myself more organized, and to motivate me to read. And honestly, it does help me. Sometimes it does get a little bit overwhelming because I'm like, oh my God, I'm so behind on my reading. But ultimately, it is a pretty good tool for me. I think that I do get a lot more reading done. For example, I think I read, like 10 books in the month of March. And you guys know I was having a record low this year. I was reading like 6 books a month, if that. I read like 9 books in March, which still isn't too much, but it's more than I was reading in a month, and that is 9 more books I got knocked off my TBR. So yeah, just be patient. You can only do so much, but this is just a method in case you're looking for a new way to switch up your reading, or how to motivate yourself, or how to squeeze in more reading time. So for me, who works 40 hours a week as a grocer during this time, I was definitely struggling to find the motivation to read and to squeeze in the time. But if I have a set page count, I'm not feeling so overwhelmed with like the prospect of, oh my gosh, I should get a chunk of this book read. It's like, no, I actually only have to read like 70 pages of this book to reach my goal. And yeah, I think it's pretty useful. It's kind of something you have to develop on your own. You don't have to follow my rules. What I encourage you to do is to make your own rules so that it's like your own personal reading schedule. It's what you feel comfortable with. The schedule is designed on what I know my reading technicalities are, or what my reading habits are, and what makes me most comfortable reading. So some books I'm taking a bigger chunk out of them, but it's because I have higher expectations for them, and it's how I'm predicting my flow is going to be when I'm reading them. Other books, I'm cutting the page count on them, and that's because, you know, it just really depends on the books on your TBR and what you want to mesh together. So let me know in the comments down below if this helped you at all. I feel like I really suck at explaining things, but it's really hard if you're not like in person. And I know it's like really more of a visual thing. Savannah's getting so mad because I'm not paying any attention to her. So yeah, it's kind of a visual thing. I know I didn't do the best job explaining this, but if you guys have any questions, leave them down below, and I will make a separate Q&A video answering them, as well as any questions you guys have about my reading schedule and how it works. Or if you're trying your own schedule and just have like a minor question, whatever. I hope this helped at least a little bit. I know that a lot of you guys are just looking for a new way to squeeze in reading, because I know a lot of you guys are also workers during this time. Or you're just looking for a new way to find motivation to read during quarantine. Either way, I hope this helps. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time for a new video.